tonight. 2 Samuel chapter 19. Now we are going to be starting out tonight in verse 9. I had mentioned last week that the chapter beginning was really put in the wrong spot. It was literally right in the middle of a thought. You know, whoever it was that decided, okay, I'm going to put chapter 19 right here, really should have put it between verse 8 and verse 9. Verse 9 really should have been verse 1, but anyways, so we looked at those first 8 verses last week with the death of Absalom and all that. So tonight, beginning in verse 9, we're going to be looking at a few different things tonight. When I was first reading over them, I wasn't sure with the type of study we're in. If these were going to be things that we would be looking at, and but then I found out there's a little bit more to some of these, so I wanted to I figured, you know what, it really does fit with what we're the type of study we're doing, looking at David, because I want to make sure that you understand where he is and why. You know, certain things are happening, certain decisions are made, and certain movements, you know, that sort of thing. It really does involve David a good deal. So let's begin right in verse 9. Now all the people were in a dispute throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king saved us from the hand of our enemies. He delivered us from the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled from the land because of Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now therefore, why do you say nothing about bringing back the king?" So King David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, why are you the last to bring the king back to his house, since the words of all Israel have come to the king, to his very house? You are my brethren, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? God, do so to me, and more also, if you are not commander of the army before me continually, in place of Joab." So he swayed the hearts of all the men of Judah, just as the heart of one man. So they sent this word to the king, "Return, you and all your servants." I'm going to stop right there really quick. So I want to explain, okay, when I read this, I was a little bit confused at first. So what did that mean I had to do? I had to study it, okay? I couldn't just read this passage for what it was worth. It's like, there's got to be something else a little bit going on here. Okay, so David, even though we know that David was the appointed king of Israel, okay? So Absalom is now dead. You would think he would just go back in and take the throne. Why isn't he? Why didn't he just go right back in and take the throne? I mean, it's his God-given thing, right? Why not? Okay, there were still many followers of Absalom in the city, okay, who were still at this point loyal to Absalom, even though Absalom is gone. David did not want to be a king, to come in more in the sense of a conquesting king, okay? He wanted to come in as a loving king. Yeah, he could come in as a conquering king. He could have. He had every right, okay? The throne was his. But he did not want to come in and because of his presence being there in Israel right then, if he had just come right back in, there would have been a lot of unrest. He did not want to do that because he would then essentially be the cause of the unrest. Okay? And this, of course, so what we're seeing in the first couple verses we read there, verse 9 and verse 10, is these are the followers of Absalom are confused. You know, they expected David just to come right back in. They may have even had plans of how they were going to try and overthrow him again. I'm not, we don't know that for certain, but they were confused. Like, wait, he's always, they know either firsthand or from stories about he used to be this conquering king in the sense of going into these cities. But that was different. That was when he was conquering and bringing this land and getting it all together as what would be considered the promised land of Israel, uniting everyone, getting them the land that God had given them. Okay? In this case, it was a totally separate situation here. So, King David goes to the two priests and asks them to go to the elders of Judah, okay, and essentially ask them how everything is going. Okay, that's the easiest way to put it. How everything is going in the city. What does it look like? Okay, it took a little bit of time, but we see in verse 14 that he said he swayed, the hearts of all the men of Judah, just as the heart of one man. So they sent this word to the king: return you and all your servants. Okay? So these people, now there are, and we will see that, there's always going to be some stragglers. Okay? When it says all, okay, it does not mean 100% of the people of Israel were on David's side. Okay, and we're looking at is all of the leaders. Okay, David was king, but you had over all the tribes. You had all the other men, all the other rulers, the one in charge. All of them were now on David's side. For a while, remember, most of them were actually on Absalom's side when Absalom came in, and when Absalom had taken over. So they are now on his side. That is what he needed. It wasn't necessarily all the people. He needed the leaders, and that is what he was able. To get, and to where that they then invited David and all his servants to return. Picking up in verse 15, then the king returned and came to the Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to escort the king across the Jordan. And Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, who was from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons, and his 20 servants with him, and they went over the Jordan before the king. Then a ferry boat went across to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought good. So we are essentially seeing here, okay, the tribe of Judah has gone down to escort, that's the easiest way to put it, to escort David back to the palace, back to where he was supposed to be, back to the throne. And you will notice as well that it added in that there was an extra person that went down. Okay, we have seen this man before, the Shimei, okay, son of Gera. he comes down as well with the leaders and all the men of Judah to meet King David. He did not come alone. There were, it says, 1,000 men with him, okay, as he comes down. Now, I want to take you back really quick to chapter 16. We've looked at this before. I just want to remind you of who this man is, where we saw him before. 2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 5. Now when King David came to Bahurim, there was a man from the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. Coming from there, he came out, cursing continuously as he came, and he threw stones at David and all the servants of King David. Okay? This is the man we're talking about. Okay? He was so extreme. Originally, just a couple chapters prior, was on the extreme opposite side, okay, of David, to the point where when David came by his house or his property, however you want to put it, came across him, okay, it was nothing but swearing, calling, name-calling, literally to the point of throwing stones, okay, at David and David's servants that were there. So here he comes down with 1,000 men, and you start to get, the first thing that might come through your mind is, is he coming down to cause trouble? It's actually the exact opposite. You notice I stopped in the middle of verse 18. Let's keep reading. Verse 18 of chapter 19. We're back in chapter 19 now. Now Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king when he had crossed the Jordan. Then he said to the king, "Do not let my lord impute iniquity to me, or remember what wrong your servant did on the day that my lord the king left Jerusalem, that the king should take it to heart. For I, your servant, know that I have sinned. Therefore here I am, the first to come today of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king." Okay? When he comes, there is no name calling, no rock throwing. At first, not even any words come out of his mouth. His first thing is to drop down. Okay? He fell down before the king, meaning, okay, he didn't stumble and trip over a rock. Okay? He is bowing to the ground in reverence. Okay? And he is asking for mercy. He is seeing where he was very wrong. Okay, he sinned. He said, "I sinned against you. I know I did wrong. However, I am now your humble servant. Please spare me." Okay. Now David obviously had the power to do anything he wanted to right then, and I don't believe that he brought the 1,000 men with him in the sense of trying to intimidate David. Okay, David had a lot more than 1,000 with him at that point. Okay, I believe it was a show of, it's not just me, my whole household. We are at your service. Okay, verse 21. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, "Shall not Shimei be put to death for this? Because he cursed the Lord's anointed." And David said, "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah?" I know I am butchering that name. "That you should be adversaries to me today. Shall any man be put to death today in Israel? For do I not know that today I am king over Israel?" Therefore the king said to Shimei, "You shall not die." And the king swore to him. Now, it's David at first, what we're seeing, okay, so Abishai comes to David and is essentially, it's going, the way he is presenting this and saying it to King David, saying he should be put to death. Okay, this is it's not something where he's reminding David of who this guy is. He's going beyond that to a point of disrespecting David as king. He is putting it more in the sense of almost a command, as if he's commanding King David, no, you need to put him to death because this is what he did. And that is why we see King David. David goes and says, who's king here? I mean, that's what we're saying. Who's king here? Isn't it me? Okay, I'm the one that makes decisions around here about this sort of thing. And, maybe it's just because David was in a really good mood because he's going back to Israel. He's going back to the throne. He's going back to his God-appointed place. However it was, still, okay, he offered forgiveness to Shimei for his earlier sins against him. Let's see. Now the next guy we are going to look at that David happens to meet, okay, David as he's traveling back, he runs into multiple people. The next one must have been a guy who looked quite a sight. Okay, he was quite a sight here. Verse 24. Now Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and he had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes, from the day the king departed until the day he returned in peace. So it was when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said to him, why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, my lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For your servant said, I will saddle a donkey for myself, that I may ride on it and go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like the angel of God. Therefore do what is good in your eyes. For all my father's house were but dead men before my lord the king. Yet you set your servant among those who eat at your own table. Therefore what right have I still to cry out any more to the king? So the king said to him, why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, you and Ziba divide the land. Then Mephibosheth said to the king, rather let him take it all, inasmuch as my lord the king has come back in peace to his own house. Okay, so what we're seeing here, and I want you to this is another section where it's just like, okay, there's got to be more to this. Certain things just didn't seem right or sound right, or just didn't make sense to me. So I looked into it. So what Mephibosheth was, okay, so he was one of the sons of Saul, of King Saul, and he was, as he mentioned here, he was lame, okay? He was crippled. He was not, because when I first, to be honest, when I first read it, I'm sure I'm not the only one who every once in a while when you read something, you will sometimes somehow miss a little phrase, especially the first time you read it. That's why it's always best. I don't remember who it was that told me first. I know pastors told me, but who had mentioned first to me, or I'd heard it said, they, especially if you're going to be preaching from a passage, you can't read it once, you can't read it twice, okay? You got to read it. I heard one, I don't know if it was Billy Graham, I can't remember who it was now, said that he would read a passage a minimum of 50 times.
G. Campbell Morgan said that too.
Oh, was it? So maybe it was...
Dr. G. Campbell Morgan
okay, that's
said
maybe...
he would not preach until he's read something at least 50 times.
Yep, that's probably who I'm thinking of then, yes, okay. He would not, and why? Okay, it's not just to try and memorize the words, okay? It also comes to making sure we don't miss something, okay? And the first time I read it, I missed the part of your servant is lame. So at first it's like not making sense. I'm like, oh, so what comes into my head? Oh, this guy's lazy. Because his servant didn't saddle him the donkey, he's so lazy, he's not going to get it himself, okay? this guy does not have the ability to saddle his donkey for himself, to be able to then go and ride with David when David was escaping, because he was part of David's house, okay? David took care of him, took him in, and said, you will forever eat at my table. You will live in the palace. I am taking care of you for the rest of your life. So David had went to him when David came upon him. Why is it that you did not go with me? Okay? And like I said, Mephibosheth, he's coming. This is a guy who, in this time frame, okay, he had been living with David, so I guarantee he was bathed, His, since it pointed out, his mustache, okay, his facial hair would have been trimmed, his nails would have been trimmed, his feet would have been cleaned, all this sort of thing, okay? His clothes would have been washed consistently. And instead, when David comes back and sees him, everything is the exact opposite, okay? His hair has not been touched in that time, has not been cleaned. His nails are crudded up and black and growing long. I mean, just this very, very unkempt, dirty, scruffy guy. The purpose of Mephibosheth doing that. Why did he let himself, as far as we can tell, as far as we know, he may have, even when Absalom was in power, Absalom may have let him stay in the palace, okay? It doesn't say anything against that. Why didn't he take care of himself? He felt so bad because he could not go with David, because it turns out his servant that was supposed to be in charge of that, essentially was against David. Turns out was a follower of Absalom, and would not let him ride, did not help him to go and follow and go after King David. So this was his way, essentially, of defying, but also almost in the sense of I don't want to say mourning, but like putting on sackcloth and ashes when you have done something. When you see that in the Bible, a horrible sin or things like that. Okay, that is his way of doing it. Essentially, it's his way until David has come back. This is what I am doing. Okay. And the other thing that I had to look at a little bit more is towards the end of those verses, 29 and 30, where so the king said to him, "Why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, you and Ziba divide the land." Okay, David is thinking of the original agreement. He's thinking that's most likely is what is on Mephibosheth's mind. Okay, that Mephibosheth is afraid of that he's going to lose everything, and being he's a cripple, he can't take care of himself. He's lame, he's disabled. There's no place for him. He would be essentially a homeless person living in the streets if it was not for David. Okay, so David had said that there was going to be land that him and Ziba were to divide. Okay, that is what David is thinking that Mephibosheth is, worried about, is his own well-being. What we see in verse 30 is no. Then Mephibosheth said to the king, "Rather, let him take it all, inasmuch as my lord the king has come back in peace to his own house." He goes, "No, David, that's not what I'm talking about here. That land that was supposed to be for me, I don't care about it. That's not what I'm talking about. Let Ziba have everything. My one thing that I was worrying about, the reason why you were seeing me in this state, okay, is because of the state that you were in. Okay? My only worry, my only concern was you getting back onto the throne where you are supposed to be. Now that we've passed another tongue twister of a name, we've got another one. Oh, am I thankful we're not in Old Testament times. I know this is a small thing. There's many other things we could attest to that as well. But, verse 31, and Barzillai, the Gileadite, came down from Rogelim and went across the Jordan with the king to escort him across the Jordan. Now Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he had provided the king with supplies while he stayed at Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. And the king said to Barzillai, come across with me, and I'll provide for you while you are with me in Jerusalem. I'm going to stop real quick. Okay, so this is one of those men. At one point when David and his men were most likely at their lowest, okay? Not just hungry, but also their moods, their countenances were low. He is one of the ones. He was a very wealthy man that came in and brought that food, the cots in bed, if you remember. You know, the place is not on the ground to be able to sleep. You know, brought wash basins for them to be able to wash up and take baths and all of that. Okay, and so this man comes down. So of course David goes and sees him. Obviously remembers what this man did for him. He wanted to take him. David wanted to take Barzillai with him back to Israel, okay, and essentially just take care of him, lavish him with gifts. That, you know, just essentially wanted to, let's say, take him out in the town, show him really just everything he could think of to do for this guy, do with the guy. That was David's intent, okay, a big thank you. However, verse 34, but Barzillai said to the king, how long have I to live, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am today 80 years old. Can I discern between the good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any longer the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little way across the Jordan with the king. And why should the king repay me with such a reward? Please let your servant turn back again, that I may die in my own city, near the grave of my father and mother. But here is your servant, Chimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king, and do for him what seems good to you. Barzillai he's saying, King, that sounds great. If I was 30 years younger, I can't do it. You know, and he goes, and this guy, it's not just, how can I put it, okay? It's not just an age thing in the sense of, oh, I'm old, I'm getting tired. Because, you know, if that was the case, I think I can guarantee David would have said, tired? What does that get to do with anything? Here, I've got some guys who'll carry you. You know, you won't have to walk a step. You know, it went beyond that. He's saying his eyesight his eyesight and his hearing was so bad that he had to have his own personal servants to help him with day-to-day things. Okay, essentially nowadays, the way in today's society, he would he would have his own personal nurses and stuff are in his house, but he would be like in an assisted living sort of situation. Okay, that's what we're seeing with him. So he's saying no, King David. I mean, who am I? He's essentially saying, I helped you. What he's saying is, you know, King David looked at what he did as a great thing. This man was so rich, he was just like, you know, it's like, no, that's nothing. You know, that was nothing that I did for you. You know, I was happy to do it. I would just be a burden on you to go with you. And he's saying, I know my time is near. Okay? I don't want to be in Israel. I want to be able to be buried with my mom and dad. Okay? I want to be able to be buried in the family plot. I want to be able to be buried, put to rest, and in my family's tomb. Okay? And he said, however, you know what? There's someone else I want you to take. Whatever you were willing to do for me, do for him instead. And this man that was given to him is Chimham. Okay? Now, there are speculations as to who this would have been. Okay? We don't know for certain. One that would kind of make sense, kind of makes most sense, I think, is that Barzillai very well may have had, a good amount of sons. Okay, so what does that mean? That means the youngest is going to get essentially nothing. So this is a very good chance that this might be his youngest son. The one who would get almost nothing in the end from him. He's saying, take him. Let him. Because all he's saying, all the rest of mine, what he would be saying is all the rest of my sons, I'm leaving them. There's so much I am leaving behind. They're all fine. Once it gets down to him, there's nothing. Please take him. Now, like I said, we don't know for certain who this is. Okay? That's just one that of the different options that I saw, the different scholars said, oh, it could be this, could be that. That was one that I felt was probably a very good chance of what that would be, of who that would be. Verse 38, and the king answered, Chimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what seems good to you. Now whatever you request of me, I will do for you. Then all the people went over the Jordan, and when the king had crossed over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. Okay? So David does take Chimham with him back over. Now, let's see. What do we have for time? Okay. Let's keep going in verse 40. Now the king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him. And all the people of Judah escorted the king, and also half the people of Israel. Just then all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king, his household, and all David's men with him across the Jordan? So all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is a close relative of ours. Why then are you angry over this matter? Have we ever eaten at the king's expense? Or has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 shares in the king. Therefore, we also have more right to David than you. Why then do you despise us? Were we not the first to advise bringing back our king? Yet the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. Okay? So what we have here, King David is coming back, and it was just added in that sure enough, Chimham was going with him. Okay? It wasn't just a thing of crossed over and then he went back with his father. Okay? He did continue on with King David. And they're coming back, and you see a quarrel going on here. Now this quarrel was one of jealousy. Okay? So here you have the tribe of Judah and those leaders and everything. They are escorting David back to the throne. Well, they're arriving back to the city, and all the other leaders, okay, of the other 10 tribes are there, and they're just to welcome and say, welcome David with open arms, okay? And all of a sudden they're just like, wait, Judah, we were the ones that went and invited the king back before you? Who do you think you are to be the first ones to greet him and bring in and all of this? And the leaders of Judah were just like, I mean, we're family. Okay, we're close relatives. We're family of David. You know, they are actually genuinely confused, is what we're seeing. Like, what's the big deal? You know, we're bringing him back. We're walking him back. They're saying, have we ever eaten at the king's expense, or has he given us any gift? What they're saying is, he's not paying us to do this. This isn't anything. We're just bringing him back to where he belongs, okay? This is what's happening. Well, they are the men of Israel. Then go, we have 10 shares in the king, therefore we have more right to David than you. There's 10 of us against you. Why is it that, we have more say over you? Okay? So the reason why I said jealousy, they stayed sitting on their hands. Instead of them going after David and bringing him back to the throne, they sat on their hands waiting for David to come back. Judah was the one tribe that did not just sit on their hands. They went out. They went out after their king. They may have been the last ones to decide to bring him back, but they were the only ones who went out after King David and were bringing him back. And because of that, they were very jealous of this. Okay, so essentially what it is, I mean, this might be possibly the first time in history where we see, you snooze, you lose. You know? What they were saying, what the Judahites were saying is there was nothing in it for them. They weren't doing it for any glory. They weren't doing it for any sort of reward. They were just doing it. They felt that it was their responsibility to do it, okay? That's what it came down to. And the very end of it was, yet the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel, okay? This fiercer does not mean nasty, does not mean mean, does not mean they were putting them down, in that sense. They essentially, what it was is how can I explain this? The men of Judah, by saying that the words were fiercer, was that they, essentially they did put them in their place, okay? That is the easiest way to put it, I think. Is the leaders of the other 10 tribes, they put them in their place. Like what I just said to you, the other 10 tribes sat in their hands. That's essentially what it means. Their words were fiercer. The other 10 tribes finally just sort of threw their hands up, yeah. Essentially they're giving in, saying, yeah, okay.
Well, the 10 tribes of Israel rejected David at first.
Yeah.
Because he was only a king of Judah, which is the southern province of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
But then he went from there and became king of northern Israel, which would be the 10 tribes.
Right.
So the Judites were upset that they stole their king.
Yeah, well then, yes, yeah.
And that's why, they were so angry. That's why, they're...
And then, so that was originally.
Right.
That was before Absalom and everything, is what Pastor's talking about. And now here, once Absalom is gone, bringing it back, okay, it was Judah, the Judites, that were the ones to go and get him and bring him back to where he was supposed to be. Not not the other tribes, okay? They had, essentially they're saying, you had your chance and you blew it.
Yeah, they took him back home for a while.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Took him back where they thought he should be. For a while there. Let's see, we do not have time. Okay. I was hoping we might have time to look at chapter 20 this morning, but we do not. We will look at the blood next week. Let's go ahead and close in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for your love. And Lord, as we were talking before the message, Lord, your continual blessings, Lord, it can be so easy, Lord, to thank you for the big things, but so often, Lord, we tend to forget for whatever reason to thank you for the little things. Lord, I just thank you for all these wonderful blessings that you give us, Lord, even those small things that at times we may forget. Lord, I just thank you so much for those. I thank you so much for your love, your continued love, Lord, that we certainly cannot sing enough about. Lord, we cannot truly understand in our minds the amount of love that you have for us. Lord, we love you. We thank you and we praise you for it all. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
So when are you heading for Ohio?
I think we head out Thursday.
Thursday.
Yep.
Don't get too close to this, like.
Yeah, same here. It's easier to wear it, carry it.
You know, I just help them.
Thank you, sir. You got a
Yep.
busy week ahead of you?
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
All right. How many properties do you now have?
Well, I mean, I take care of, was it 10, 11 properties? But I mean, I obviously I help out wherever I'm needed, so if you want to look at it in that sense, it's about 20. Yep, 20 or 21 total, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's only pretty much one that I almost never go to, and that's the newest building, the new Bell's Garage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The one
that one is,
I mean, from,
yeah, that one is, got a lot of more high-tech stuff in it.
Yeah, Lizzie's.
And Phil has just been fighting with that for years, ever since, for how many years since they
Yeah.
built it, trying to get everything in place,
Yeah.
learning all the systems and all of that. So it's just been, instead of so many guys trying to go in at once, he's just like, I will take it all.
Yeah.
Once it's all in place, everything is figured out, the kinks are gotten out of it and everything,
See, I remember.
then we'll start introducing other people. So other than certain inspections or something like that, we're going to let a Comcast guy into the basement or